Welcome to the requisition meeting for the last time that Peel will elect its only candidate. As at the general election coming up in a year's time, Glenfarber and Peel will be joined together and will have two candidates, two members between them. So this is a historic event. It's the last time Peel is returning one member on its own, without the adjoining countryside. My name is Robert Quayle. Some of you may know me. The Peel Commissioners have asked me to chair this meeting. They bill me as the former Clerk of Tynwald. Well, it was an awful long time ago, I'm afraid. But those sorts of titles stick with you. I'm standing in, really, for the person who would normally chair these meetings, who is that well-known figure, John Kenyock. But as some of you know, John is seriously ill, and I'm sure our thoughts and prayers are with him tonight. Now, there's obviously a lot of interest in this forthcoming by-election, and it's good to see so many people here. You want to hear from the candidates, not from me, so I'm going to try and keep the introduction as short as possible. Please do switch off your mobile phones or put them on silent, however important the message is. I think toilets and exits are fairly clear. TV is here. We live in a modern age. I'm assured by Paul Moulton that you, the questioners, won't actually feature, so I'm sorry about that. If you want to come up to the front and ask a question, it's up to you. But I'm anticipating that people will ask questions from their seats in due course. The plan I've proposed for this evening is that the candidates should have an opportunity to address you for about 5 minutes. I should be fairly strict on the time and hit them over the head when they've exceeded their time. And then the floor will be open to you to ask questions. Questions may be addressed to a particular candidate if you like, but each candidate must obviously have the opportunity to answer each question. So I'm planning to invite the candidates to address you in alphabetical order. We have 3 H's, which is stretching, and then one who's not an H. And then when it comes to questioning, we'll also do it in alphabetical order, but we'll go down the list starting with a different candidate each time. So each has the opportunity to speak first or whatever. I hope that sounds acceptable to all of you. I don't hear any sounds of major dissent. Good. Well, according to my calculations, the alphabetical list is Mr. Hanson, Ms. Hardman, Mr. Harmer, and Mr. Pownall. Have I got that right? Everybody right? Does anybody disagree with that? Good. So the first person to address this requisition meeting is Leslie Hanson. Leslie.
Thank you. Could you give me a share 2.5 minutes on the last minute?
Yes.
My name's Leslie Hanson. I was born in the Isle of Man. Parents originally from Peel. I've been living in Peel for the last 35 years. I am standing as an independent candidate for the constituency of Peel. So is Mr. Raymond Harmer, and so is Mr. David Pownall. As an independent candidate, my loyalty is to, and only to, the people of Peel, the people who elect me. My policies as an independent candidate are the policies that represent the best interests of Peel as an independent candidate. If Peel elects somebody who is not an independent candidate, who is Penny Hardman, the candidate chosen by the Liberal Vannin Party to represent the Liberal Vannin in Peel, Mrs. Harmer, her loyalties are not to the people of Peel, her loyalties are to the political party who has appointed her to represent them in the constituency of Peel. It follows on that any policies that either Liberal Vannin put forward in their own right, or any policies that are put forward by the government who the Liberal Van support, which are not in the interests of people in Peel or the economy of Peel, Mrs Hardman will have to vote against the interests of Peel and will have to vote with the party, and Peel will not have a voice. Now, the people of Peel have a clear choice here. They either vote for somebody who becomes an MHK and becomes their own MHK, that is an independent candidate, or they vote for someone who becomes a Liberal Van MHK. But a Liberal Van MHK is not Peel's own MHK. And this is something you should remember when you start voting for people who are members of political parties. It's interesting that across, when you have general elections, you have notices saying the Conservative candidate is so-and-so. You have the Labour candidate is so-and-so, yet where you see the placards around Peel for Mrs Hardman, there's no Liberal Van on it. It's vote for Mrs Hardman. This vote for Mrs Hardman, Penny Hardman. But in actual fact, what it should say is vote for the Liberal Van Party's chosen candidate to represent the Liberal Van Party in Peel. Not the people of Peel. Liberal Van Party.
2.5.
2.5, thank you. Right. I'm the only person who has mentioned tidying up of work permits, and it's very important. In the UK, over the past 2 or 3 years, they've created 700,000 new jobs. Now, you would expect they would increase their tax take by a great amount of money. The Treasury did not. There's been no increase in tax take, and the reason is that because the UK is a member of the EU, people can come from poor economies into Europe and straight and take jobs. The minimum wage in the UK has become the maximum wage. People on the minimum wage pay very little tax, but their families need to put strain on the schools financially and the hospitals, as any people do. But no extra finance has been coming in to finance those extra demands on the services. The result is that the UK Chancellor in the last budget increased the minimum wage so he could get some tax take in, and recently the whole UK Home Secretary said she's thinking of ripping up the right of people from Europe to come straight into Britain and take a job. Now, we've had permits because we're not members of the EU, we're associate members. And this present regime is wanting to reduce the strength of work permits at the very time we should be strengthening it. This is something I alone have mentioned. Now, I alone have also mentioned about the MEA, which I mentioned in the general election 2011. There's a fibre optic system that was supposed to go into use.
1 minute.
And only the Isle of Man, you could have a situation when the Manx government would not give itself a licence to have a telecoms company. If that telecoms company gets lit up, which it can do, the whole idea that was supposed to provide the cash flow to pay off the £392 million debt for the MEA. At the moment, we have to pay that, and we could reduce our electricity prices by half. What would that do to the economy if the telecoms were paying off the debt instead of electricity bills paying off the debt? As regards the Isle of Man, as regards Peel, I'm very worried about the sewage system as regards Iris. There are lots of other ways of doing the job, just as effective, but a lot less costly. The cost of running a system 24/7 on electricity alone will be considerable, and I bet you the central government will try to pass the cost of the running of that sewage system on to Peel ratepayers.
Time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hanson. We now turn to Ms. Hardman.
Thank you. Well, my name is Penny Hardman, and I am the Liberal Van candidate who will wholly support the people of Peel. Over the last weeks, I've spent every evening and every weekend talking to you all and interestingly, the same concerns are expressed again and again. One, there's a lack of trust and confidence in the current administration. Two, that further development on the outskirts of Peel needs to stop in order to protect our community cohesion and because the current infrastructure in Peel does not meet the needs of the people already here. There's also agreement that things need to change. LibVan is the Isle of Man's party of transparency and accountability, and it's the only the only means of achieving change against a background of lone voices and broken promises that always follows from independent candidates. Unlike previous independents and our current administration, LibVan stands by its policies. I believe we deserve a democratic government. I believe we deserve a government that is open and transparent. I believe that it's our generation's responsibility to secure a long-term future for our children and for generations to come. To achieve this, we need to develop a national tax strategy that supports the long-term growth of the island instead of continuously increasing stealth-like indirect taxation, which detrimentally impacts on working people. Raising personal allowance to 20,000 would mean that those on the lowest incomes are not unfairly penalised for going to work. For those people on the highest incomes who benefit from a very attractive tax rate, their contribution to our economy has to be measured in terms of economic benefit they bring, such as establishing new businesses. By recognising that one size does not fit all, we can put in place incentives to encourage all investors to locate and start up businesses in the Isle of Man, as well as to encourage investments locally. It is important that the public sector pension scheme and the state retirement pension are not confused, as we cannot continue to sustain the public sector pension scheme in its current form. We need to phase out this existing scheme while protecting the benefits that have been accrued to date. I believe that everyone is entitled to an excellent education, and I understand the value education has in enabling people to make the best of themselves and in turn contribute more fully to society. We need to nurture our local talent and invest in it while attracting key sector professionals in shortage areas to relocate here. Locally, we need to encourage secure regeneration funding to build on and not detract from Peel's existing charm. We also need to put in place an infrastructure to support a town that's grown too rapidly in recent years. Both schools are bursting at the seams, waiting time for GP appointments are increasing, and even before Peel began to be developed, the sewage system was not adequate. Nevertheless, housing development has continued at a rapid pace without addressing this problem, and the results are catastrophic. In 2007, it was decided not to contact Peel to the IRIS scheme as was intended in Phase 1. Despite the fact that it's now been proven that this decision was based on flawed information, Peel Town Commissioners have undertaken secret negotiations and agreed a solution which will mean that Peel Beach will never now attain blue flag status. This decision was taken without public consultation in an environment that was not open and transparent. This is an issue that fundamentally affects us all, an issue that always called for a public referendum. Why vote for me? Well, as a LibVan MHK, I will be different. With 2 MHKs supporting me, coupled with my strong academic background in research, education and law, and with careers in the financial, charitable and public sector, I'm a powerful voice built upon common sense and reason. Importantly, I know how government works, and one of my strengths is forming strong working alliances between the public and private sectors to get the job done. Over the years, I've developed an extensive network of contacts inside and outside of government, across diverse sectors, locally, nationally and internationally. My ability to develop businesses these contacts have helped me establish a number of local businesses, including the Quayside Restaurant in Peel, the Isle of Man Rape Crisis Centre and the Isle of Man branch of the RNIB. I've deepened government, regulatory and business links by representing the Isle of Man at the Common Law Registries conferences, at the British Iris Council and at the International Festival of Business in Liverpool, to name a few. As a qualified paralegal, I have the skills to consider and understand legislation, and I have a wealth of experience updating, drafting and implementing government policies. A proven problem solver, I have the skills to balance ensuring the island's economic and social growth, whilst listening to and responding to the needs of my constituents. It's time that the people of Peel came first. Thank you.
And now Mr. Harmer.
Peel is a great place to live, with a rich heritage and a vibrant community at its heart, which I care about very much. And this, therefore, is the reason why I am standing as MHK. We can make a difference, not because of one person, but because of the many working together with a common vision for the benefit of all. I believe in an open and inclusive society which seeks to protect and support all in our community. I want to offer my skills and my knowledge gained through an engineering degree at Cambridge University and an MBA with the Open University, and my experience in business for over 20 years on the Isle of Man. I was elected Appeal Commissioner in 2009 and have served as chairman 4 times. It is a privilege to serve the people of Peel, bringing people together to make things better, such as creating a playground, a cloth workers' school, regenerating areas of the town such as Marine Parade, improving commissioners' housing, providing more recycling, harrowing the beach, reducing costs, and offering free library membership, free Wi-Fi, free tennis courts. If elected, I feel I could do much more. My priorities include ensuring our infrastructure in Peel meets the needs of our growing community. After much technical and financial research and negotiation, we finally reached an agreement with Manx Utilities for the building of a closed sewage treatment plant for Peel, which meets the highest European standards. This, I believe, is a significant milestone. We want to move forward with this solution and gain Treasury funding because we need a safe and clean beach in Peel without delay. More regeneration is waiting in the wings to add to what has already been accomplished. But Peel has much more to offer. We can build on its arts and cultural heritage while supporting our traditional industries such as fishing and start-up niche businesses. Nationally, the focus is to grow our economy to safeguard the future of our island. For example, by targeting new markets in Asia and in IT services. A stronger economy will enable us to support and invest in frontline services, such as doctors, teachers, and the police. And this will enable us to take care of the vulnerable. I support a simple and fair tax system, such as raising the tax allowance threshold to help those on lower incomes. But education is critical to our future and to our economy. All of our children have the right to the best education, irrespective of social, emotional, or academic differences. Free nursery education would give us all an excellent start in life and allow parents to continue to work. For our students, we need to provide financial help, not only to cover tuition fees, but also to help cover the cost of rent and day-to-day living. A government sponsorship scheme for our future island-based doctors, nurses, teachers and police should be explored. But education is lifelong, and we should provide assistance to all those who need to retrain or to those who want to acquire new skills. Finally, good governance requires honest and constructive challenge. An example of this was exposing the unfairness of the toilet tax. But this in turn builds strong relationships, which I've developed over the years, across business, the community, charities, government, and wider afield.
1 minute.
I am committed to work hard to build on what's already begun, but to keep aiming for better. I believe that it's only by working together and that this is a vital ingredient for a bright future.
Mr. Pownall.
Well, good evening. My name is David Pownall and I'm standing in the Peel by-elections. I am a Manxman. I was born in the Isle of Man. I've had strong connections with the sailing community for a very, very long time. And I think that I've been walking around the town trying to gain some sort of support and find out what people in Peel really, what they really want from their MHK. And one of the things that people have been saying is that the MHK is, he's like a mouthpiece for you and you and you. Now, you see, I have a manifesto here, and I could read out my manifesto, but in actual fact, it sounds pretty much the same as everything that you've heard here up to now. In the past, we've had politicians who've been very keen on expanding the town and the population, and recently we've had politicians, the same politician, saying something completely different. So you could vote me in next week on this, and I might not do this. So it doesn't really, in many ways, it doesn't really mean a lot to me. But the people of Peel are talking to me at the moment about education. They want better education for preschool. I think this is an excellent idea, but I can't honestly tell you, I don't know, I haven't got the facts whether we can afford it. But I can assure you that I would find out, and if we can afford it, we'll do it. I'm pleased to hear about Mr. Harmer, his idea for the sewage in Peel, and I think it's an awkward position I'm in here, but I actually like Mr. Harmer. I think it's absolutely super what the town have done. And you can at the moment be a bit despondent about Peel, but I think we should all give ourselves a pat on the back. Peel are doing very well, thank you very much. There are little things that are not quite right, I would say. For example, the dredging in Peel. We got a group of lads over from Northern Ireland to help us with the dredging at the marina in Peel because the boats keep running aground. What they did was put 2 barges in the marina. One was an empty barge, the other was a platform, and they got J.C. Kelly down and they raised the soil off the seabed and put it in the barge and carted it away. They were hurried away for TT week. The job's not done properly. We need to be thinking about doing jobs properly. If you go to the hospital on a weekend, the service might not be as good as a weekday. We need to make sure that our hospitals our hospital is supported and our hospital workers. I had a friend who went to Nova's Hospital a couple of years ago on a weekend, and the poor lady was shoved from side to side, and they couldn't find out what was wrong with her. She went away for a second opinion. She wasn't a very rich lady. She went away for a second opinion and got diagnosed with cancer. She had only a few months to live, and she's no longer with us. Now, I could criticise the hospital if I wanted to, but I don't see any point in doing that. I think we need to support the hospital, and as a symbolic gesture, I would be prepared, I am prepared, to give anything that I would earn in this position to Nova's Hospital as a symbolic gesture, because this is the way we've got to start thinking now. I'm not a rich person, and I would struggle for a year to do this, but we've all got to think about supporting the health service, especially the some cancer diagnostics on the Isle of Man. It's the same, getting back to the dredging. We need to get our own barge, not just for Peel, but for Castletown. We should stop looking away for simple things like that. We've got fishermen in Peel earning £120 a week. They could only land 120 bags of Queenies at the moment. If you go into a top restaurant in Peel, 2 people, well, okay, they'd have to have quite a lot of food, I guess, but you could end up with a bill for £120, which is the same what our lads are earning. I actually went out on a fishing boat recently, and I can tell you, those lads work very, very hard. And I think, was there an accident today or yesterday?
1 minute.
Regarding the fishing boat? They work hard. We need to support our fishermen. We've got to be very careful with work permits. There are a lot of people working in field, in various industries, who you might think are not entitled to a work permit. Well, they are, because we need them, and we've always needed them. We brought these people in for many, many years, you know, to work in the fish yard, to do whatever in the field. And I still think that we need to do that. However, there are factions on the Isle of Man professions where I think that we could start charging for work permits, and we could gain some revenue from doing that. Also, the TT races, a couple of weeks ago, last week, you heard of radio silence. We had a problem with the radio transmitter. There was silence on the Isle of Man. The TT was over, the Max Grand Prix Festival was over. I think in the future, if we're not careful, we could lose a lot of support for people going to the TT through insurance, and I think that we should concentrate on building a Formula 1 style track in the future. It might take 30
Time
years.
up.
We could think about it. Thank you.